All right. And welcome to another Sunday Superversive live stream. I am your host, Benjamin Wheeler, and I am going to discuss the political content of today because, quite frankly, nobody gets it. It's kind of dumb. Well, no, a lot of people are getting it. I shouldn't be like that. I shouldn't be like that. I've made I've made people a Microsoft Paint document that should explain everything. I want you to know, and I want you to know uh, something. Find a reason to be. No, like, so here's the thing. Uh, there is, to use a constitutional scholar phrase, um, an eminence of a penumbra that people are discussing. All right. So the problem is that people are assuming a devil when there is no devil, when there isn't anything actually, when there's an idea of something. Uh, let me. Yeah, I'm just gonna put that up there. All right. So the thing is that eminence of penumbra, right? So people are assuming that there is more to this story than meets the eye. In fact, they're doing it in, quite frankly, a cringe. Let me center this for you guys. Quay bono. In a cringe, dare I even say, entirely cringe. It's just cringe. All right, it's unpatriotic. How dare UK voices like Count Dankula and Academic Agent not support our war of freedom, America's war of freedom? Guys, I'm seriously. I'm seriously, guys. How dare they? How dare they? No, the big thing here isn't some sort of weird how do I want to put it? Well, I'll just say it outright. People believe the Jews removed Maduro. They're saying that it's Zionist power. And while I will never deny the idea that there are Zionists in the offices of the Americas, I'm actually going to demonstrate with the information that everyone is discussing on Twitter right now that no one actually knows what the Zionists fucking contributed to this thing. And I'm not even saying it as a guy who's pro Zionist. I'm very critical of the Jews and have been forever. The difference is that I know the difference between a battle to fight and something that'll kind of just sort itself out in the imperial way. The fact of the matter is that if we are dealing with imperial powers like everyone says, then what do you have to do to tear them down? Oh, but no, I named the Jew. Don't you know that you're playing into Zionist power? They benefited. Oh, they benefited. Well, because he was pro Palestine, like many liberals who may themselves also be Jewish. He sang Imagine once. Honestly, I shouldn't put this one. This one I'm gonna remove, guys. I'm gonna I'm gonna I'm gonna I'm gonna crop this one. Uh that's not really a Jew thing. Oh, I'm gonna fit it right there. That's a USA thing. Right there, guys. That's the long and short of it. All right, so now I've given you guys some time to come in. Let's start talking about this thing in a more serious manner. Uh watch out. Watch out. Oh. Uh in a more serious thing. The question in all politics is cui bono. Who benefits? Who benefited from X? Who benefited from Y? Who benefited from Z? And there's always people who benefit from whatever a government does, no matter what it is. A more modern example that we are going to chimp out about once the afterglow of this Maduro removal uh, ends is, of course, the Somalians. I just saw an article where, get this, somebody's trying to hire child actors to fill in seats for a tax inspection on Craigslist. Amazing, beautiful, 10 out of 10. Yakub is strong with this one. But no, uh, there is actual real benefits to that. If this person is not a trick and is able to pass the tax inspection, he'll gain a lot more benefits from it. The government is allowed to continue doing whatever benefits they get from the Somali daycare, which may just be funding Somali daycares against white people is benefit enough. You can also see something, let's say, more blunt. Teddy Roosevelt built the White Fleet, America's probably first truly modern navy, or at least in that running, and sent it around the world. Speak softly and carry a big stick. The big stick was the White Fleet. Now, this was very expensive. It was paid for with tariffs and stuff like. What was the benefit? Well, the benefit was is that a lot of naval powers saw that America had a reasonable navy of its own, and especially Britain, Japan, and other nations, Germany especially. So that's their benefit. When it comes to things like other action, there are benefits that may only go one way or benefit a group. For example, the AI stuff kind of just benefits the AI. The offset being that a lot of people now enjoy um, the ability to make decently acceptable art. But really, the big thing about AI is the data crunching and the benefit. Money goes into it. The more information you can pull from an AI, the more benefit you're going to get in general, right? So it goes one way, but there's off scourings that other people can enjoy. If they could have done it without, like, every time you go through AI, you're testing the AI. The data goes in that you want, the image comes out for an image generator. The image comes out, and you say whether that's good or bad. If you say that it's bad, the data goes back and it's collated with everything else. I'm sure somebody looks at it. I'm sure. But you have these things, you have these ideas um, that you have to go through. So for Venezuela, excuse me. There are two powers that are guaranteed to benefit. The first power is the USA. USA gets the most. USA gets their a bunch of different things. The second is the Venezuelans themselves. Unfortunately, I will discuss this in the future. Uh, but essentially, dictatorships are natural to South America. It's where they grow, homegrown, and all that good stuff. Because of this, whatever you know, um, whatever happens in the end, they are going to get another dictator. Hopefully, this one will be less bloody than Maduro or Venezuela. Strongmen, tyrannos, tyrants, juntas are just part and parcel of South American government. Bukele is technically a junta or a tyrant, et cetera, et cetera. However, he is a good one. He loves his people to a point, I'm sure. He arrests and imprisons their enemies. We love ourselves Bukele. Other places like Argentina will devolve back into a dictator. However, Javier Milei is probably not the man to do it, though he may be kept on as a figurehead. Lastly, people have been saying that the Jews or the Zionists, maybe I'll help them out a bit. I'll limit it. Zionists. Sure, that works. That Zionists benefited. I have yet to find an explicit post that says that, how do I want to put it? That says an explicit benefit for Israel, except that Maduro was kind of pro-Palestine. I believe that that was more of a shit-lib opinion, and I will discuss it later on in the video. But let's. This is entirely a meme, right? I'm discussing this in this way because people have been talking about it. Oh, you like this? You must be a Zionist dog. Well, I don't know about that. Uh, Let me make sure this is boop or there we go. All right. So, Dawn Row Doctrine, baby. We're so back. It's never been over. Um all right. So, in a serious matter, what are we looking at here? There are many, many benefits to this I can't believe I forgot to write down oil. I can't believe it. Um, there are many benefits to the USA doing this to Maduro. All right. Maduro, as a dictator, was a bloodthirsty, savage man connected to the narcos. All right. He was like Don Halado, not Don. I don't think he was a top brass, but he was like one of the lords within the crime syndicates, right? He had a lot of military connections to drug running, to these sort of things. Early last year, 2025, maybe this was in 2024. I feel it was in 2025. Early, there were some apartment blocks in Colorado that were taken over by a gang. Um, Let me see here. Did I say Narcos BTFO'd here too? Dead Narco aligned. Yeah, there we go. I'm not even going to finish the sentence. Uh, they took over a bunch of apartment blocks. They were running drugs. They were doing violence from them, terrorizing American citizens and foreigners alike. Um, they were removed. It was one of the first challenges to Trump in office, and he handled it pretty well. So there's a lot of connection between Maduro's military and the narcos. I won't say completely that the military of Venezuela was an arm of the narcos, but I am saying that if they could benefit each other, they certainly did. And Maduro was a part of it. Uh, the army itself is as good enough a reason to remove Maduro from power, even though it turned out to be a total paper tiger and all the Russian and China stuff didn't work or maybe was sabotaged. I'm not willing to prevaricate. Um, Removing military opponents is always a good thing for any imperial nation. All right, this is like the war with Jugurtha. We are removing. Uh, uh, Somebody contacted me. We are removing a dictator aligned person uh, from office who hated us, right? We are making sure that somebody who is in power can no longer hurt us. Uh, the international law is not necessarily a reason to do anything. We are international law by strength of our boats and our guns and our nukes and so on and so forth. Uh, these things are changeable based on the weather. All right. You will never be able to properly conceive of international law without an international power willing to enforce it. Treaties like the Treaty of Westphalia and Geneva were created not even by one individual nation, but rather by a concert of European nations um, to create something like an order that they can live in. It created actually the benefits, sorry, it created the peace necessary for things like the rapid scientific advancement, as well as the ability for nations to discuss each other and not have war in the same way that they had to have war in the medieval period. Um, when you have people who won't follow international law, who won't follow these sort of things, you do have problems in a situation where there's equal power, right? If somebody is equal, or at least can be challenged by other nations, which the USA simply cannot be challenged, you will, how do I want to put it, have an off balanced effect that will destroy the whole thing. If international law is based on the power of one imperial individual who cannot be destroyed, then uh, uh, by any one power, international law is whatever that imperial power says. Whatever China and Russia say, they simply do not have our power. China is notably a paper tiger throughout its history, and Russia is tied down by too many conflicts. While the Ukraine conflict is the famous one, they're still dealing with bushfires in different parts of their empire, as well as the need to make sure that China doesn't, eye up their territory. And of course, the Mongolians sometimes just burst forth. It's very scary, Mongolians. Um, so the idea is pretty simple here. Whatever Russia and China think they are, whatever Europe thinks it is, they simply don't have the same level of power that we do within our own hemisphere, the Western Hemisphere. We are the culmination of the empires. Uh, and as such, we are allowed to do point number 2 and 3 here, which is that we can basically claim that the Western Hemisphere is ours and we can make changes when we want to. Donald Trump has been very consistent about his anti-drug stance. This anti-drug stance comes from personal tragedy as well. I don't know a single person who hasn't lost people to uh, 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 avoidable narco level drugs and stuff like that. I'd be shocked if a man as social as him hasn't lost a friend to fentanyl and other things, and he's certainly been around cocaine. Um, these things that these narcos do, they kill people, they run people. Breaking Bad is, shows them to be evil, but quite frankly, their evil always goes deeper than what you see. You see Breaking Bad, you say, yeah, these guys are evil, but there's more. When I lost a friend to some fentanyl um, laced heroin, guess where all that stuff comes from? Not from the U.S. The heroin probably came from Afghanistan or something ridiculous like that. Brought in, I believe, the heroin. Actually, it could be either way. From Chinese or Venezuelan sources, made it to the U.S., made it to my friend who was a recovering drug addict. His roommates, he made a poor choice. They gave it to him, and he died. What am I supposed to think about that? Am I supposed to suddenly like narcos because they're anti-Zionist or something ridiculous like that? Complete nonsense. Plus, the Jews have had a very well-known um, a crime syndicate that did dabble in things like drug distribution as well at different times. These things that people bring up constantly about sovereignty and international law lose. I can't say it without putting law into my nose as mockery to academic agent. Um, the fact is that we are the one with the biggest dick and the biggest stick. There's no other way to put it. You can be more polite about it. Our influence and our circle of influence includes many sovereign nations within South America. No, the fact of the matter is that we can do the Maduro. Excuse me. We can do the Maduro thing to everybody. We can do it to Brazil. We can do it to Chile. If Javier Milei decides to spit in our face and run to Terra del Fuego, we know where he'll be before he gets there. And that's like the spy, the CIA, yeah, sure. But also, it's just the general practice of a good imperial power to know what their associates are thinking before they do. We get, if we give up power over South America, other powers will come in, right? It's not like you're at a dinner table and there's a last slice of pie and no one wants to take it because you're all good Midwesterners. Rather, it's more like China or Russia or Zimbabwe will try to pick it up. We know that with this point right here, the no oil for China. Russia also saw. um, is that Chinese influence was directly related to they were basically Chinese diplomats were visiting Maduro the day before it was happening. Okay, you know he wasn't visiting whatever powers behind pro-Palestinianism or whatever. He was visiting with Chinese people who are making some very public and very open territorial claims to Taiwan currently, including shelling empty water in a display of ferocity. We, of course, did a $50 billion money deal or wherever billions it was. No one's talking about the Taiwanese lobby, but whatever, don't you know, take the Taiwan pill. Um, so yeah, the Western Hemisphere is ours. He said Don Roe doctrine, which was pretty great. 10 out of 10, best president. I talked about narcos briefly. Um, Cuban Missile Crisis ass mentality is connected to China and Russia. Both China and Russia have been giving them arms and armaments that apparently may have been turned off or just didn't work. Um, and basically going, what you're going to do. We got the advanced missile detection systems and such. The problem is that also all misspellings are on purpose, by the way. Uh, the problem is that technology advances and they didn't actually give them their most advanced parts, partially because they wouldn't be able to handle them, and also because there wouldn't be like if they get captured, guess who gets them? America. Assuming they didn't just crib the design from us and put it together like that. There's a mentality here that, oh, we put missiles near you, you got to submit. Well, they didn't give us the hypersonic missiles that's so powerful in Ukraine, um, and may actually destroy a lot of our naval power if it comes to a hot war. They didn't give them any of the special satellite stuff that I know they have. They didn't give them any. They gave them some stuff that would have been formidable 10 years ago, maybe 20. That's what they did. It's not nearly as impressive as people say. However, it is dangerous on the principle of the thing. If some commando or narco aligned commando gets it into his head to shoot at a plane or a helicopter trying to blow up another narco vessel, well, guess what? That's not going to end well for them. And we're going to blame them and get pissed off at whoever provided them the weapons. There's a lot of things for it. We are in a cold war with China and Russia. It's just not as advanced as the other war was because one, Russia doesn't care right now. Actually, he doesn't seem to care about much that isn't around Russia, and China is notorious for not, being for not breaking through into aggression, which is different. Russia is aggressive, but within a sphere. China can be aggressive, but they tend to not. It's a show of power. Yeah, migrant resettlement. There have been some talk about some statement from like Kristi Noem about refugees. Turns out it was taken out of context, and in fact, they are like, no, the Venezuelans can go back. We're only apparently there's only some room for some Afrikaners on our refugee status, which I approve of. They are spiritually cousins to America, these South Africans. Um, Even though they're not American, they are spiritually close. Uh, it takes a frontier spirit, is what I'm saying. And they're white. Then we have the removal of Venezuelans back into Venezuela. Give the country a year, and if their dictatorship doesn't fuck it up, which they probably will, um, Venezuela could enjoy a sense of peace and prosperity different from the peace and prosperity under Maduro. Right. Uh, so much peace and prosperity. Empty shelves, baby. They will be slightly less empty, more full, in fact. There's also the fact that oil was on the table. I might, the migrant resettlement thing, I should probably put it more under here, but migrant resettlement benefits us. Oil. There was a Venezuelan gentleman who was interviewed, and he said, "It's like, oh, Americans want the oil. What did you think China and Russia who were talking to us about? Maybe they weren't talking about our recipe for arapas. You know, that's a good mindset for this stuff to have, right? A resource in existence is not going to be left on the table. The reason why I keep talking about Donroe Doctrine in the Western Hemisphere being ours, about even things like resettlement of the migrants, is because whatever's on the table will be on the table until it's taken. That might seem a little confusing. Let me demonstrate an idea with the oil. If oil resources are on the table, they will be exploited, as they say, by somebody. Now, we built Venezuelan oil's infrastructure 20 odd years ago, and Chavez took it. Now, I'm saying us, but not me, but companies aligned with us, the US. And he took it over and he started selling it on the open market. Um, if we refuse to take the oil and just leave it for Venezuela, it is likely that the same thing is going to happen again, except this time with somebody who may be less worthy. Because whatever Maduro's faults, he could actually keep control of the country. He wasn't like whoever's ruling the Congo right now, unable to control it. Warlord bands roaming everywhere, um, et cetera, et cetera. Uh, with the oil, if no one takes it, and then if whoever comes in, because we were too good to touch the oil, they will use it for their own means. If they are unfriendly to us, they will sell it to China, who wants to invade Taiwan but doesn't have the oil reserves to, just like Japan back before World War II. Uh, not that it would have the oil supply would have lasted, but they could have built up a very large stockpile with Venezuelan oil. Because we are enlightened despots of a Christian nation, we engage in something called charity. So we can, in fact, invade something for the oil and then do our best to benefit the people a little bit more than their dictator was, who I will remind you, in context, was shooting and starving his own people whenever, whether they protested or not. This was a narco state. He only cared about what he benefited himself. We know this because we have before pictures and after pictures. The joke being that you want to go on a diet, just take the Venezuelan diet program, and it's like a hot woman who's starving but still has large breasts. The show of power, no oil for China. Russia saw our oil now. Oh, I guess I did put oil in there. Our Caracas, our crude. I can't remember who posted that. I love the Baron Harkonnen posting. That's pretty funny. Maduro also sang "Imagine" at least once. That's unacceptable. Unacceptable, I tell you. But the bigger point on this is that he was taunting Trump quite a bit in the lead up to it. You know, he did these little weird dances that were recorded and broadcast. He was bold, he was brash. He sang Imagine. He deserves to be smacked down. All right. Whatever you think about things like, how do I want to put it? Whatever you think about how international relations exist, if you know the character of the person, you should be able to avoid their triggers that will bring them to war against you. If you have someone who's bold and brash like Trump, being bold and brash yourself, except cringe, will infuriate him and cause him to believe he can attack you. If Maduro had kept silent and had not, sung Imagine, taunted Trump, stuff like that, uh, he would have not been viewed as such an easy target. There wouldn't have been the same amount of impetus. Trump is trying to build up something. Like, I don't know what his end goals are, but he does seem to be doing things more buildy currently. The time for regime change is past, sadly. Whatever changes have to be, kind of done more violently than if he had done it from the beginning of his office. But quite frankly, I don't even know if they were as possible as people like Curtis Yarvin say, which is something that we're going to get into in a little bit. Yeah, he's saying Imagine once. We had to get him the fuck out. So the next thing is Venezuelans. What do benefits do Venezuelans get? They don't get the dictator who is shooting and starving them. The new dictator is likely to be a little bit more circumspect in his dealings and less likely to shoot them dead in the streets. They might get some food, and the narcos had a power crushed with along with the siege of their um, drugs running up into America. It is likely they're feeling a bit of a hurt. However, I don't think it's gone on long enough for them to really reduce their stores. It is likely that they have seen a dip in profits, not that they're being starved out. Plus, who knows how many shell companies are in between. Remigration. People, Venezuelans who have enjoyed education and things here can go back to their own country and benefit Venezuela, which again is now enjoying a bunch of food, or should anyway. We can use the oil to do stuff like that, the oil money. One hopes that we will. I don't know if we actually will, but one hopes we will. That's their benefits. Venezuelans have had an unfortunate bit. They haven't really had that secure of a government ever. Ever since Simon de Bolivar took over from Spain, which wasn't the best government, but at least it was stable. They have had an absolute revolving door of dictators, democracies and dictators and democracies and dictators. I'm actually shocked they're this developed, but civilization is a powerful thing. So that's really all there is to it. They're happy to see Maduro gone. They are not protesting in the streets for Maduro. They are protesting against Maduro, and hopefully they will get someone better. So let's talk about this right here. I don't actually understand a lot of the pro-Zionist arguments for the capture of Maduro. And there's several reasons for it. One, people bring up that Ben Netanyahu did visit Trump before this all happened. I think that wasn't very important in regard to Venezuela. Maybe they said, "Hey, spaceman, we're going to do this thing with Maduro." Okay, that's fine. He's pro-Palestinian. I don't care. That's the long and short of it. There's an idea that people have that the Jews are somehow behind everything. They are anti-Semitic in a way that's very philo-Semitic, right? So you have to imagine actual relations with the Jews requires a careful balance. You have to accept that it's a bunch of humans who are more or less aligned with each other, acting in their best self-interest according to a set of beliefs that they themselves hold, like everyone else. The difference is that they are actually very sensitive about their race, ethnicity, religion, whatever you want to call it. And so, whatever an evil Jew does, all the other Jews will benefit to. All the other Jews view it as a benefit to defend the evil Jew. Now, that's not to say I'm not making any moral judgments on it. It's just kind of you rattle the cage and the hornets come out. U.S. military might hornets. uh, and I mean this not in an anti-Semitic way. I'm just saying that this is their noticed behavior. The joke from one comedian Norm Macdonald, thank you, was that Marlon Brando has apologized for saying that the Jews control Hollywood. Uh, he is now allowed. He has apologized to the Jewish Council for saying that the Jews control Hollywood. He is now allowed to work again. It's that sort of thing. Um, they do have power over certain things, and many of the Jews in power have made decisions and promoted ideas that have not benefited natural Americans. They have been very pro immigration. They have been very pro diversity. And they generally view it as a good thing because among other things, they think that it protects them, from their various misfortunes, whether they deserve it or not. So things like money power, making politicians kiss the wall, um, media power, a thousand other little things. They're very protective of. However, the problem is that there's an assumption that the Jews are far more powerful than people think they are. So it's not just that there's a Rothschild behind everything. The Rothschilds control everything, or maybe not the Rothschilds, but whatever Jewish bugbear they're bringing up controls every aspect. The Don does not get out of bed lest he consults with Benny Netanyahu. Uh, um, whether he should put on his socks first or his pants first, or if he should just go fully nude like Adam. No, that's not how it goes. Like even if Benjamin Netanyahu is consulted with every major decision, he's not there going, yes, you must allocate 1% for an extra 1% of the budget for the highway system. Yes, that 0.5 allocation for dike building along the Mississippi River surely benefits Israel. this this Death Star of David is fully operational. You may fire when ready. Hava Nagila starts playing as a beam of light shoots out and blows up the rebel scum. Yes, absolutely. That is exactly what happens. Benjamin Netanyahu is sitting in a Death Star of David, shooting lasers at anti-Semites. No, absolutely not. While Zionist power is real, while the Zionist lobby is absolutely real and has an outsized influence for the importance of what Israel is, thanks to the Jewish hive mentality, uh, they are not in charge of everything. even if they were more powerful than you could possibly imagine. Oh, wait, excuse me. Even if they were able to influence everything, there is a diminishing returns on that benefit. And if they destroy their greatest ally, quote unquote, their baby daddy, they have already been rebuffed from places like Russia, China, Africa. I can't like the idea that they would like they're building bases in Somaliland just because it's like, oh no. They have to deal with the Palestinian problem, and people are getting too pissed off about them, genociding and Hamas and whatever else. It's like Hamas is real. I don't know, and they deserve to be blown up, but at the same time, it's like I saw too many dead babies when this war started, and it was Israelis promoting dead Palestinian children. To be clear, um, it's like I just blocked all that. Can't stand it. So you have this like failure of optics that is far more important than what the truth of what Israeli power is. If the Zionist lobby is as powerful with their fully operational Death Star of David and Iron Dome and stuff like that, why do they need us to step in for Iran? We ended the Israeli-Iran conflict. And we did it with a diplomatic bombing of some unimportant buildings of a site that is hyper defended with many, many layers of dirt and iron and all this other stuff. Like the idea that we blew up the entrance and then all of a sudden their nuclear facilities are down, ridiculous nonsense. They shot some missiles at us, and honor was preserved. That's what happened with that conflict. Israel couldn't fight it. They were losing. They lost every exchange, it felt like. And this was from pro Jewish media sources. We would get videos of gay men having orgies and keeping out, implied orgies, and keeping out people by holding the bomb doors shut. Like that's not what a true power does. Uh, the assumption that the Jews are somehow behind everything only works until you actually see them in action. I've talked to Jewish men. I've talked to many Jewish men. I spoke to a drunk one, at a bar where after hours in a bar where I was getting beer for some of my friends, uh, and we talked about Maimonides and stuff like that as you do when you're drunk. And I wasn't drunk though. And the only thing I could think of is that one, he could not be tied down to truth for anything, and two, he was neurotic. What you have is something more than just some sort of oh the admiral Lord Netanyahu, we have unfortunately you know a missile got through the Iron Dome. You have failed me for the last time, Admiral Jew. And he's like, lifts his hand, falls over dead. That's not happening. That's not happening at all. In fact, I would actually say that, while you have strong hands like Benjamin Netanyahu and probably his successors and whoever's running Mossad and so on and so forth, a lot of what they do is entirely soft power. If they come up to you and go, I've got pictures of you jacking it. I've got compromising. I've got compromat on you. You could just laugh at them. Like you could just go, okay, hey family, sorry about this. We're going to go into a rough patch. Back when I was 18, I used to jack off 5 times a day, and Israel got the pictures. I'm so sorry. Sorry, guys. They have the furry photos. Sorry. Except that that doesn't work in a group. It didn't work on the Democrats because they're perverted and they love it. They absolutely love the perversions. It's like that one eunuch who stole somebody else's luggage because he thought that the clothes were fantastic, or the private who lives in a kennel, or these other people. Like, how do you blackmail that? How was I supposed to know that that Doberman was underage? They don't care. Like, you can't blackmail somebody who's so deep in sin that it's a badge of honor. And that's actually, part of the problem. They did promote this stuff because it weakened good American power. But then the monster they created literally wants you to have pictures of them jacking it in a fursuit. Like, it's one of those things where there's failures of soft power everywhere, especially now. Maybe in the 90s, you need to watch the work of Dr. Stephen Carson about the Israel lobby. This stuff was more dangerous. But when you have people who publicly wear communist outfits, or go about in a dog mask, or steal other people's luggage because he thought that the clothes were fabulous. You don't it doesn't work. It comes all the way back around to not working anymore. um the same thing with this Maduro stuff. Yeah, the biggest, strongest argument for Maduro being removed was that he was pro-Palestine. However, how can you say that his pro-Palestinianism was the main thing when people like Mamdani came into power? When people who are very pro-Palestine are sitting in office in England, right? And in the Senate and other places. No, like, it's clearly, you know, a factor that did not make him a friend of Israel, but is not necessarily a factor that guaranteed his removal from a public office, uh, dictatorship, whatever you want to call it. Like, I dig it. I absolutely dig the power of the Zionist lobby, the Israeli lobby, whatever you want to call it. It is a thing. There are powerful Jews in existence, in banking and Hollywood and media and international whatever and law and etc. But the fact is that very few of them had any actual decision about Maduro. If Maduro had an Israeli influence looking for him to be removed, it was based on something like the pro Palestine thing. And it was certainly based on the idea that America can do it on its own power or not. Uh, could Benjamin Netanyahu remove Maduro from Israel? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. The soft power of Israel is soft power. Their hard power does not even let them truly own their own claimed land. Like, yes, there are Jews in power. Yes, they have influence, and yes, they have promoted bad things. However, when it comes to every situation, they cannot be involved in it, because otherwise they would be hard power in ways that they have demonstrated many, 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 many times, especially in the last decade, that they simply are unable to handle. Yes, Mossad killed some Nazis and they killed some different politicians. They probably killed Robert McCarthy. Probably. Uh, it was either that or KGB, or ISB, whatever the Russian one was called. Somebody did it. It was probably, I would say, um, Mossad, just because it's the right time period, and they would go to them for it, rather than actual CIA assets come at risk. CIA benefited a lot, more than likely. You know what? I'm just going to say it. Robert McCarthy had a lot of enemies, and many of them were communist. Too many of them were communist aligned. He was a doomed man. well before, you know, he actually got committed into the hospital. Uh, is like I personally believe that he was poisoned, went to the hospital, and then whatever. The point is that there's a decay over time of how these influences work. Jewish influence was strongest when you could deny it. You cannot deny Jewish influence at this time. To do so would label you blind. The thing is that the problem on the other side is that sometimes the Jews aren't involved. We know this because China and Russia resisted Jewish influence. Russia killed some of their oligarchs under Putin's reign, which he did very early on, and brought them to heel. These guys were Jewish and other things. Even though they're still very powerful men, oligarchs, um, they had to listen to Putin. And if they didn't listen to Putin, they would die. China just refused them wholesale. Uh, you can't really get rid of oligarchs once they're entrenched into a country, but they prevented the entrenchment. It helps that China is very pro-Chinese and understand the game of ethnocentrism. Somalis are the same way, except they're stupid. So, what can you do? So you look at these things, right? The the Zionist agenda may have included dictators like Maduro being removed. However, they didn't do it when he came into power. They didn't do it when they had Biden in their pocket. They didn't do it until now, when Trump decided he was tired of his shit. So, so when it comes to these things, right? Like, sure, there might be benefit. I bet some of the money from the oil is going through Jewish banks. Okay, I'd bet. But name me banks that aren't Jewish. Like, God, I bet he uses a Jewish bank. Yeah. Like maybe there's some Swiss banks in Seychelles or whatever. But you know what I'm saying, right? Like if you scratch something at this high level, you are going to find an overrepresented demographic. And I bet if you're Anglo pilled, you'd also find some English people and some Frenchmen and maybe even an African warlord or two. I don't know. Or whatever rules Switzerland at this point in time, and a German. It's like one of those things. But yeah, the denial of Jewish power is stupid. But the assumption that their Death Star of David is fully operational is also stupid. Like you have to find that middle ground. If you don't, the problem is that you'll get people who go, actually, um, don't you know that this violated international law and benefited Zionism? Okay, so what is it because Trump kissed the wall? Like is this why you're saying it? He's friends with Benjamin Netanyahu. Look, I don't think Israel benefits us as an ally, but at the very least, they're not murderously against us, except for that one time. Uh, they're not murderously against us like Syria is, or um, uh, uh, what some of the other countries have done to us in the past, like Iraq, which had entire wars against us. Iraq is a failed state. We never should have gone into Iraq, but Saddam Hussein was our avowed enemy. Like it also benefited Israel for Saddam Hussein to be removed from power. So it's like one of those things where it's like, yeah, okay, we shouldn't have done it, but we did it. But also, it wasn't like we ran out of the forest somewhere and punched a dude in the face. Saddam Hussein boasted that he would defeat us in battle. I remember it. I remember what he was saying before our invasion in the after Afghanistan. He was boastful. He put his face on the screen every night on the news. Sure, it was propaganda, but at the same time, it's like, what can you do about it? The internet wasn't as developed as it was now, and even if it was, they were mostly arguing about lollies or furries. Like, I don't care about that. That's not my style, baby. Um, so you have a bunch of things where it's like, yeah, sure, there are people who are Zionist aligned. Maduro was pro Palestine. Maduro was removed. However, my argument here is that there are far more actual benefits. Mm. Oh, oil. Oh, actual benefits to removing Maduro for USA and Venezuela before the Jews even get involved, whether or not the Jews were involved. In fact, I could say that the mark of something, whether or not it's actually Zionist, is how much it benefits the Jews. For example, ignoring their certain war crimes in Gaza benefits the Jews. You can say that's Zionist. So, a tax break for a specifically worded group of investors probably also benefits the Jews. Just a little bit of benefit. But looking at something like, you know, invading a foreign country that has no relation or aggression against Israel, like, please show me where Maduro was funding Hamas. Show me where Maduro actively started killing Jewish civilians, so that they would have some beef. It doesn't exist. It's not there. Yes, the oil money is probably going to go through Jewish banks like most money does. Benjamin Netanyahu probably knew about it ahead of time and was okay with it. And Maduro was pro Palestine. But the thing is that from the words of the different people involved, they don't mention Benjamin Netanyahu. I'm talking about Benjamin Netanyahu because if I didn't, people would freak out about it because he visited a week ago or something like that. Instead, I'm actually saying that that certainly Jewish interests were benefited, as any good soft power does benefit, but the Venezuelans benefited, and especially the United States benefited. Bombing Chavez's tomb is a vibe, my guys. I can see how Benjamin Netanyahu benefited directly from bombing Chavez's tomb. Ben Gurion is rolling in the grave, except he now enjoys the peace of Yahweh because he has. No, that's blasphemous. That's blasphemous. He's sleeping in his tomb so well because they bombed Chavez's tomb. There was a syncope between them that is now at peace. Like, it's ridiculous nonsense. At some point, Jewish power can't be all powerful. Jewish power cannot be the cause of everything. Like the joke on the internet is the Jews kept me from having a high school goth girl romance. I think you kept yourself from that, my dude. But what are they saying at that? Are they being literal? Are they being literal that that Benjamin Netanyahu crept into the goth girl's DMs and went, he's a little bit of a pussy, right? Listen, I've seen his parents' bank accounts. They are not nearly as rich as he's pretending they are. I will, if you don't go out with them, I'll give your parents a better loan for a mortgage. Like, he didn't do any of that. No Mossad agent, went up and, put some SSRIs in her water so she refused to date you. That's all nonsense. That's not at all how any of this goes. All right. We all know that. We can say that there's been Jewish influence. We can say that, excuse me, that influence has been outsized. dangerously so, that almost certainly we have had murdered politicians from the Israel lobby agents of the Mossad and so on and so forth. All right. How the USS Liberty cries out for blood even now. However, they didn't make you stub your toe. They didn't keep you from having a goth girlfriend in high school, and they're not primary beneficiaries to Maduro being removed from his office. It's ridiculous. You can't have political conversations and then have somebody goes, the Jews with everything. What are you supposed to do with that? How can you deal with that? You know it's a logic bomb. All right, whatever the Jews are actually doing, many crimes, many bad things, many bad events that have hurt people, that have undermined our sovereignty. If they are in everything, then how in the world is naming them helping? Because you can't defeat them. You're never going to defeat them. The Death Star of David is fully operational, and he is currently cooking your balls with a microwave beam. He is reaching out with his Talmudic power and grasping your balls directly and circumcising you spiritually. It's nonsense. They can't be behind everything. And if they are behind everything, how in the world are you able to deal with that? Let's move on to the next part of this. This is we're done talking about this stuff. I'm playing. Oh, where is it? Did it crash? It just doesn't like it. Close down. Share. All right. So the next step when it comes to talking about, say, Jewish power or anyone's power, uh, is that if this power is real, if the inability to do anything that isn't involved with Jews are, it's an impossibility. You're always doomed to fail, and so on and so forth. Like, what can you do about that? The answer is nothing. You can name them at best. And I'm not saying this to shill Israel power. The second this stream goes down, I'm not putting on a kippah and start dancing the Havanagila, right? I'm not reading passages from the Book of Maccabees and going, the Goyim, and then I take a bite of a lox sandwich. You know, they never know. I have been mistaken for Jewish, but that's just because I have a large beard and prominent nose. It is a Scottish Anglo nose. Thank you very much. Um, I'll never lose to these allegations. Uh, anyway, this talk is big, right? This talk is very nice. You want to, have talk about, we're bringing up the Israel thing. Okay, well, the question is it actually something worthwhile, or is it something that just, how do I want to put it, that you become autistically interested in? Okay, we can say that the Jews have committed many crimes. They deserved many of their, I don't believe they deserved all of them. Sometimes it just kind of happens out of nowhere. Like not kicking the Jews out to not pay your loans is dishonest. All right, before God. You shouldn't have taken those loans because they were usurious, and now instead of paying them back, you're kicking them out. Like it's not quite the plan that you thought they were. I'm sure. Uh, the loan shouldn't have been given, and you should pay them back if you take them from anybody except those who are at war with you. the I keep losing track because it's a complicated issue. It's not just as simple as that. But like with Stephen Carson, Dr. Stephen Carson has done some amazing work. He has talked a lot about the Israel lobby. It's stuff I'm referring to mentally when I'm talking about this issue. They have been powerful. They have done many crimes. They have likely killed politicians or at least arranged their downfall. And there's, quite frankly, not much that the average person can do about it. See, here's the thing: when the average person goes out into the field, into the wild, in a civilized state of the union like Missouri, he can go armed. In fact, there's a very, very low barrier of entry for things like concealed carry. In fact, you don't even really need a license for a lot of it. In California, they did just have their open carry ban rendered unconstitutional, but we'll see if anything actually happens with that. Point is that there's civilized things you can do to defend yourself against those who want to hurt you. However, when it comes to things like say walking into a synagogue, it is likely that you are not going to go armed. And the reason that you are not going to go armed is because it's not an inner city slum. Yeah, sure. There's dangerous, like I said earlier, there's things like the Jewish mafia and stuff like that, the kosher nostras, some people call it. But quite frankly, they're not the ones jacking your car, except, through you not being able to repay the loan. Um, maybe there's a Shylock somewhere who handles car smuggling or something like that. But quite frankly, that's not the average Jew. That's not even like 90% of the Jews. That's not even like 10% of the Jews. Uh, what are you going to do to defend yourself against IMF loan? Actually, no, you can defend yourself from an IMF loan with a gun. But if you walk into a place, a Jewish bank, which is again pretty much all the banks, and ask for a loan, I assume it's all the banks. That's what they say. That's what the people on the internet tell me. I don't actually know. I'm probably never actually going to own a home, so whatever. Uh, what are you gonna do? All right, so we've got you've got pretty good credit here. So we're gonna give you a 5%, a 5% loan. Oh, you know, Benjamin Netanyahu whispering in the loan officer's ear, give him a 7.5% loan with a variable increase of 1.5% to match inflation. Yes, my Lord Netanyahu. Yes. Soon, if we make enough loans in usurious warrants, this Death Star of David will be fully operational. Anti-Semites actually and Philo-Semites actually believe this. It's a weird horseshoe theory, where both Philo and anti-Semites believe that they have all this power and all these things, where they it comes both ways. Where it's like, not only did they keep you from the goth girl, but they're also ruining the economy. Which, to be fair, they are. But sometimes the names don't look Jewish. It's like, but Soros, yes, it is not anti-Semite to name Soros. He is entirely, a villain, and he bases it entirely on his Jewishness. Um, he is very clear about that. He sold his own family into the Nazis for money, or maybe other Jews. I vaguely remember the 1990 uh, excuse me. I vaguely remember the 1990 interview everyone always points to. I don't even know if that's real anymore. I bet it was AI created. That's what I'm going to believe. No, I don't believe that at all. Uh, you know, there's an assumption of power that just simply doesn't exist. And I'm not downplaying it. I've made it very clear that I believe that they've had outsized influence in every aspect of society, basically, that they care to own. But if you go into Shmuley's deli, hey Shmuley, why aren't you open on Saturday? Like what's the point of that? Hey Shmuley, I got a bad mortgage loan. You know, are you mistaking me for the Rabbi Shmuley, that weird guy with all the weird goyim thing? Maybe. Is he not your rabbi? I haven't been to a Seder in years. I've known Jews like that. They're Jewish, and they will, if you accuse them of something or other, they'll rise up in defense of it. But in reality, you know, they haven't been to synagogue in years. They haven't been to a synagogue since since they left the school they go to. You know, and besides that, most, like, even a lot of them, they benefit, like in Israel and stuff like that. They benefit from like Jewish power and Zionist power. But quite frankly, if you removed the power brokers, they wouldn't have they wouldn't be able to. You can't just replace one Jew with another. The Jews that are probably criminally, though international law is a joke, as we know, occupying the West Bank, are not the same kind that run international finance or Hollywood. They're different kinds of people, different mindsets, different mentalities. They're just like people. Uh, Picture of the Starship Troopers guy. It's afraid. It's human. But yeah, it's this philo-Semitic horseshoe theory, right? The Jews are powerful enough to do it, and the Jews are wicked enough to do it, and the Jews will do it, and the Jews have done it already. When in reality, they've only done as much as they've been allowed to do. The Mossad agents who killed Mengele and others, and Mengele deserved it. I'm no pro philo Hitlerite. Mengele deserved the grenade shoved in his mouth or however they killed him. Uh, Fucking vivisecting. Like I assume it's exaggerated by quite a bit. Um, but it's like, that doesn't come from nowhere. He wasn't saving people. Yes, Dr. Mengele, lovingly vivisecting people to to defeat typhus. Um, no, like again, you can middle road this stuff. You can assume that there were crimes, and then you can assume that they weren't as bad as the propaganda says. These are not mutually different thoughts. Like, what are you supposed to do? You're supposed to think that they're all powerful, and you can you can argue with one drunk about Maimonides where he can't even understand the concept of truth, or at the very least won't be pinned down to one. These are people in rebellion to God. Like, what are you supposed to do about that? But Venezuela was totally Zionist because Donald Trump did the thing that all the other politicians did. And yeah, he shouldn't do it. Nobody should go kiss that wall of a Roman fort if some of the historical records are to be believed. It's ridiculous. It's unsettling to the spirit of America to bow to anyone but Jesus Christ himself. We are a Christian nation above all, and the Jews will convert one day too. Uh, but it's like, yeah, that's bad. I don't ever want to see another politician do it. I don't want to see JD Vance do it. But quite frankly, If the only thing between JD Vance is a trip to Israel and 5 minutes at the wall, I want that presidency. All right, I want the JD Vance presidency. I don't know if there's anyone better. And if there is someone better show me to them. It's not Thomas Massey. It's not Bernie Sanders. It's not, you know, Gavin Newsom. Gavin Newsom. If JD Vance, his wife, brings him a little curry for lunch, ah, it's over. Oh, but yeah, I don't look when it comes to Venezuela, it was an unabashed win for America. I know that my co-host Anthony Marquetta disagrees. He thinks he did not vote for Trump to involve himself in foreign powers, which I agree. However, sometimes the foreign powers involve themselves with you. I'm sure he has better arguments if he were to speak about it. I'll give him an opportunity to talk about it next week if he wants to. Um, I'm winding down now, so unless he puts a DM in my Discord, we're gonna leave it at that. And he's right to be disappointed in Trump for this event. People are right to go, hey, there's a little bit of weirdness to it. You know, we're just in it for the oil. But the thing is that Trump has said, been very clear that yeah, we're here for the oil. You know, I see through your dog whistles. uh, but it's like, what can you do with this stuff? That people are shouting and screaming. The assumptions that people are making here. Are you going to just sort of sit there and take it? Or are you going to go, actually, this was all Benjamin Netanyahu? It's a ridiculous place to be. To say that every little thing is a people who, yes, have outsized influence, but no, can't possibly be in charge of as many things as you say, because then that would make them a ridiculous, like, they would have powers to destroy things like, how do I want to put it? They would have powers to just, they would have won the war with Iran, okay? They wouldn't need us to fund them every second of every day to the tune of hundreds of billions of dollars. They wouldn't need to spend their entire civilization keeping us in line if they were as powerful as they say they were. We're the prize. And that's the long and short of it. Whatever you think about Israel is fine. They have many crimes. The Jews have committed many crimes, just like everyone else has. And it's worse because they should know better. And it's worse because it follows the same patterns time and time again. But this Venezuelan thing is not a Jewish crime. It is not connected to the Jews in any way that make it a Jewish psyop, except, oh, don't you know he was pro Palestinian? He said mean things about Israel. We got to remove him. Yeah, well, they've other people, sitting politicians in places that Jewish power could remove them, have said worse. At least from what I've heard. It's not like I speak Spanish. I speak French and English. You know, and they've kept their power. Yes, outsized power. No, there's no Death Star of David fully operational or not. They need us. They've always needed us, and without us, they're going to fall into obscurity. So they have decided probably that they need to unclench the grasping hand, that they need to let us have our dog, a little bit of steak, a little bit of exercise. Oh, sure. You know, But even that feels wrong, mealy-mouthed, even cowardly. Whatever their influences is, the fact is that we've named them enough. The point when it should be treated like, "Don't you know I'm Jewish?" "Yeah, I knew you were Jewish." "Don't you know we" "Yeah, I know." Don't even let them finish the sentence. Don't even let them make an argument. Just go, "Yeah, I know." "What do you mean you know?" "I know." That's it. You're standing at a urinal. You're both measuring the sizes of your circumcisions or whatever, people do in a synagogue urinal. And they say, "Don't you know?" And you just go, "Yeah." And then you live your life just like I live my life. I don't even worry about it. But some people know I'm going into counseling. Don't you know a lot of Jews have been counselor, Sigmund Freud and whatever else? Yeah. But I'm not going as a Freudian I hate God. I wanna screw my relatives. I'm trying to deal with the fact that, all the politicians around me that I'm counseling, were diddled and also diddle kids. Like, I don't have to deal with that. My goal is not some sort of naming of the Jew. My goal in the counseling that I'll be doing is to make sure that the Zoomers and the Generation Alpha, as well as my own generation men, generational countrymen, I think it might be better, can handle the world that demands you believe the most anti-Semitic, "Oh, Jews are powerless," or the most anti-Semitic, "Oh, Jews have all the power in a fully operational Death Star of David." I love the Death Star of David thing. I'm loving it too much, actually. I should calm down. Like where you have to believe these false things, and if you don't, like you will suffer many, many terrible consequences, up to and including jail time. That doesn't do well for the mind. It doesn't do well for the soul. You think God wants you to accept a lie, but also to obsess over a lie, but also to promote a lie just to keep your job that doesn't pay anything like it used to. You know, you're not in banking. You're a grocer working at Deerberg's. You vibe code. You maybe I see you door dashing or something like that. Uh, I'm not doing well employment wise. I decided not to build a career because of things like the Jews and the money and the banking. And don't you know, America's going to fall anytime now. What's the point of building if it's all just going to be ripped from you? But I was probably wrong. And now I got to pay for it. I got to suffer now because I didn't want to suffer then. Uh, that's what the things you should be concentrating on. You're fat, you're gay, you're stupid. You you got no aura, fam. Your vibes are off. You haven't. I would say you got a Luke's Max, but those eunuchs. That's the thing. That's the long and short of it. There's no mystical set of events that can suddenly remove or promote Jewish power over you. It's always been you. The thing is that the people in power, um, maybe JD Vance, maybe not, you know, who knows, have had to jump through certain hoops that we've been separate from as normies, as the goy cattle, or whatever you want to call us. It turns out there's a lot of freedom in being the goy cattle because fundamentally they can't get you at all times in all places. Um, just because an advertising agency, made something like DraftKings, which is one of the most Jewish commercials I've ever seen. Like we're talking a full Hasidic Jew on roller skates in like gold tinted garden going, "You can use my app to bet on gambling." I'm like, is this a parody? Who approved this? It was before DraftKings, but When somebody comes up to you, oh, you name the Jew. It's like, yeah, I know. That's all you have to do. You're going to get fired for being white anyway. They've created a lose-lose situation. But you, gay boy, now that we know, now that we understand, we can do more and do better. And that's the thing I'm looking forward to. As much as realizing, the horseshoe theory of Jewish power is to the mind, as harsh as it is to understand it, because you have to give up a lot of mindsets to these things. As much as harsh as it is, right? I'm not saying it's an easy position to keep. Uh, it's not one of despair. Once you understand the horseshoe, you don't have to worry about it. What are you going to do? Write a screed against Israel when you can't get a loan? It's ridiculous. It's nonsense. It's not, again, it's not every part of your life. You had bad credit. You don't have a good job. Like, you can't pay for things because of these things. You made some bad choices, like I did, and other people have. A lot of people have, especially in the, you know, 30 to 40 range, which has made bad choices. It's not Israel's fault nearly as much as you think. Fundamentally, there's personal responsibility that has to be honored. And I don't mean it in a gay way. I mean it in a real, you have to go to the gym. You have to stop being an ugly fuck. You have to find God if you haven't found God already. Like, these things are important. And it's more important than uh naming them. We're done with that. Stephen Carson can continue to do his series. I'm not saying I'm going to unfollow that series or whatever, but I am saying that, um, if you come up against somebody who goes, "Oh, the Jewish people are behind this," you can just go, "I don't care." You can live your life sep- separate from the cares of powers that you have no power over. Academic agent has made an absolute fool of himself in many regards, this, because he's going, oh, Zionist power, Zionist power, Zionist power. Cool, dude. When you I don't want to I'm not going to say anything personal, but somebody was going, oh, don't you know that America can't just kidnap dictators? And then I went something like, goes to a European party or whatever, sees a Muslim just kidnap a girl. Mm, mm. Europe is irrelevant. Their opinions are irrelevant. I love men like Nathan Hood, but and Nathan's been too smart to jump in on this. But like, what's your opinion on? I don't need your opinion on this. It's inappropriate. All right. Academic agent hasn't had a good he was vaguely okay with, like, the Stalin wasn't as bad as you thought thing. But I'm sorry. Only killing millions instead of tens of millions? My bad. I should have known better than to assume it was tens of millions, starving to death. you know, Even then, yeah, sure, good work in the past, but it's like how I treat Nick Fuentes. When Nick Fuentes has an idea I agree with, I support Nick Fuentes. But when Nick Fuentes is being a shitter, like he normally is, hmm, I don't know if I support Nick Fuentes. You can just do that. You can ignore people when you disagree with them. But with the academic agent thing, it's been galling because you should know better. Yeah, sure, Jewish power, Zionist power, Zionism. There's Zionists everywhere. This was a Zionist op. That's not political commentary. Oh, America didn't really win. What do you mean? We paraded him in the streets from an unmarked van. We won. And we won without losing a single American. Every dictator in the Caribbean is going, oh shit, America. Oh, you know, those tariffs, I think we should pay more. Thank you for defending us. That's what happens. People get knocked in line when you capture one of them. If Colombia doesn't, if Cuba doesn't, guess what? They're next. And we've proven we can do it. But the Jews might have benefited. So I don't know if it was worth it. Some way, somehow, a Jewish man was benefited from this. So we shouldn't have done it. Do you know how ridiculous that sounds? Oh, the Zionist in power might have benefited slightly from this. I've already proven that, we've already seen, I shouldn't say proven because I haven't put up iron proofs or anything like that. But we've already seen that Israel was bodied by Iran. And if we hadn't stepped in and put a stop to it, they would have continued. Their Iron Dome failed them. They ran into their underground bunkers, for once not connected, for once not in New York. But a Zionist benefited somewhere, somehow, somewhere. So we shouldn't have done it. It's not the victory you think it is. And I'm watching a video of them driving around with an unmarked van with Maduro in it, showing journalists and people and such. Oh, I I have nothing but hatred for all mankind. Unthinking cattle, you disgust me. What are you supposed to do? My laughter is wrath. You scream and no, a Jew benefited. Actually, I hate American power. Um, our children are being raped by Muslims. and and we're being demographically replaced. And Keir Starmer hates every living son of England, but they hate every living son of England, but a Zionist benefited. So America's in the wrong. MAGA is dead. We'll be Pagora. MAGA's dead, don't you know? All right. The removal of dictators who hate America is MAGA. This division is not just some sort of, do you actually have an ordered opinion about the Jews? If you have a proper, ability to see reality and discern it like a good Christian should. This is a difference between the first world and the third world. This is the difference between people who understand patriotism and those who are unable to separate themselves from online political nonsense. You can be like, actually, I didn't vote for Trump to go after other countries. That is a reasonable position to have. Like my friend Anthony, my co-host. It is reasonable for you to go, I did not vote for Trump to go into any foreign power. You're absolutely right to have that opinion. That is an acceptable opinion to have because it is balanced, it is nuanced, it has the right to it. However, going, a Jew benefited from this, is not an argument against any American thing. If it is, I don't expect patriotism from people who are not Americans. But we run this world and you're part of our sphere of influence. And if we fall, you're going to collapse like a deck of cards. And I mean that completely unironically because the English economy is collapsing in on itself, not in the sense of like, oh, America is going to collapse, but in the sense of, I know many English people who can't get jobs. Or, I know many English people who live on the government teat and they get a lot of money from us. A lot of groups get tons of money from us. USAID was just the tip of the iceberg and it benefited a lot of actual enemies. But if our economy collapses, guess what? A lot of other economies are going to collapse with us. England, France, France actually not so much. But China will. You know how much they've got invested in our money? It's ridiculous. Russia will be fine. There'll be more starvation in Africa like that wasn't happening. Israel goes down because they won't have any allies to prop them up, and everyone's going to pounce on them. Um, South America will get worse, partially because we won't be there to police them, but also because, again, we pay a lot of money to things like the Panama Canal. Like it, I don't want you to love the American flag. You don't have to be like Asa and Yoru and like Yoru in Chainsaw Man, right? But if you go, actually, this benefited a Zionist. Actually, I'm an English person and I think America should be brought before international law. You're barking up the wrong tree. You're disordered in your thoughts. You have no soul of logic to you. If an American comes up, actually, I didn't vote for this because I want America to stay out of all foreign entanglements. That's acceptable. Trump broke international law. We're international law. If we didn't support the rules-based order after World War II, it would have never gotten off the ground. Just like the League of Nations didn't get off the ground. It failed because we didn't support it. And that's a lesson people should remember for, quite frankly, the rest of time until another imperial power breaks us on the wheel. Maybe Grand Columbia will be a thing, and that'll be the one to break us. I doubt it. All right. All right. I've said everything I've wanted to say. I don't have any respect for Academic Agent or Dankula or those other guys anymore. They were good posters. Academic Agent had some good ideas, and maybe he'll have some good ideas in the future. But when Nick Fuentes is giving a better political take than you are, you've lost the plot. You've lost your place in the world. And that place is that you need America. Because otherwise you have nowhere to turn to, nowhere to run, no one to support you. Like, who forced Starmer to talk about all the rape that was going on? It wasn't the outrage of the people. They crushed you and put the boots to your faces. It was J.D. Vance giving a speech in Scotland. Nothing else. Oh, well, there was markets and people posting, yeah, and they ignored you. They just put up more cards in the camps to keep you in. People talk all over about great power politics and great men. And then when great power and great men act like it, they scream and shout and panic and shit themselves online. Be circumspect in your political opinions. Understand things change and be willing to go, you know what? It's not the Jews this time. Sometimes it is. In fact, a lot of times it is. But when it's like, yeah, Maduro was a little pro-Palestinian, I don't think it's them. And if there's something I'm missing, somebody needs to let me check my DMs. I'm going to check my DMs right now. I'm saving a folder full of Yoru in America-style bikinis, by the way. Oh, looks like I got no notifications where people go, actually, you're wrong. My chat, nobody's doing anything about it. Okay. Either nobody cares or I haven't said anything wrong. But send me a DM or something with saying, with explicit mention of what Maduro is Jewish. That's the first time I've heard that. Was also philo-Semitic. I don't know, buddy. I was told he was pro-Palestinian. Uh, is Maduro Jewish? Maduro Jewish? Question mark. Maduro has claimed to have Jewish ancestry. Grandparents converted to Catholicism. However, he's also been known for his close ties with Iran and severed diplomatic relations with Israel, which is not a thing, really. Like, severing diplomatic relations just means that they're just not talking. Like, marriage isn't over when you're not talking. I mean, it kind of is, but apparently they declined. I don't know. Incident of anti-Semitism reported, conflating Jewish with Zionist. Man, is that all? Government perceived as hostile. He met with Jewish leaders. Yeah, all right. So tin pot weirdo. Yeah, that's a good part about it. That's a good way to do it. All right, thank you, Merg Mackler Maxis. You know, typical third worlder corrupt head of state. Yeah, that's basically what I've been saying. Uh, my point is, I think you might have come in a little late, but like I said, going crazy on this Jewish thing is quite frankly, it's a dog whistle for your own insanity. I'm gonna let you guys go. You know, pray, keep your powder dry. Don't let this stuff bother you. You've got better, bigger things to do. All right. He's Filipino. Okay. Thank you, Merg. Our current president is like, yeah, I bet they just do that. All right. But thank you. Thank you, Merg. Appreciate you.